A silent pact, years in the making. A life carefully constructed. Then a phone call, a hushed voice. "There's someone in your house." The world tilted. The ground beneath her feet dissolved. What if the past isn't truly past? What if a shadow still lingers? And what if it's waiting for you, right where you least expect it? A home, a sanctuary, can become a cage. Some doors are meant to stay closed, some truths buried, but secrets rarely stay hidden forever. Eleanor Vance had always found solace in order, a meticulous routine her shield against the world's chaos. Today was no different. The thought of the impending coastal rains, bringing with them a heavy humidity that clung to everything, spurred her desire for a pristine environment. She envisioned a home sparkling clean, a haven immune to the outside dampness. With sleeves rolled up, a fresh rag in hand, she stood before the large living room window, a sense of purpose guiding her movements. The morning light, though gentle, seemed to highlight every speck of dust, every smudge, reaffirming her resolve. A quiet determination settled over her as she began to wipe the glass, her gaze drifting out to the city awakening. The rhythmic motion was almost meditative, a fleeting moment of calm before the storm she unknowingly approached. She imagined the satisfaction of seeing her reflection clearly in the polished pane, a metaphor for the clarity she sought in her life. A sudden vibration from her pocket interrupted Eleanor's tranquil task. Her hand instinctively went to her side, pulling out her dark. The screen illuminated with a familiar name. Evet. A name from a distant past. A childhood friend she hadn't seen or spoken to in years. A wave of nostalgia, tinged with surprise, washed over her. She hesitated for a moment, a whirlwind of memories flashing through her mind, before answering the call. Evet's voice, as cheerful and vibrant as Eleanor remembered, filled the receiver. The friend was merely passing through Savannah, Georgia, for a single day, a fleeting visit on a longer journey. The news brought a bittersweet pang, a missed opportunity to reconnect properly, to reminisce about shared innocent days. Eleanor listened, a polite smile on her face, but her mind was already drifting, contemplating the unexpected intrusion of the past into her carefully constructed present. The conversation with Evet was brief, a pleasant but perfunctory exchange that left Eleanor with a lingering sense of distraction. The thought of cleaning the entire house herself now felt like an overwhelming burden, a task too large for her current mental state. She glanced around the living room, then towards the untouched bedrooms upstairs, a sigh escaping her lips. The idea of spending her precious day wrestling with dust and grime seemed suddenly unappealing, almost oppressive. A new plan formed quickly in her mind. Hire someone. A professional cleaning service could handle the heavy lifting, allowing her to clear her head, perhaps even take a walk to shake off the unexpected encounter with the past. She quickly searched online, found a reputable service, and made arrangements for a cleaner to arrive that very afternoon, while the rest of her family was still out, ensuring undisturbed efficiency. The cleaning lady, Maria Ramirez, arrived promptly, a quiet, efficient presence. Eleanor gave her a quick tour, pointing out areas of focus, then left for her errands, confident in her decision to delegate the task. An hour later, It was Maria. Eleanor answered, expecting a routine question about supplies or a specific cleaning preference. Instead, a hushed, trembling voice came through the line, barely a whisper. "Mom, is there anyone else in the house?" Eleanor froze, the blood draining from her face. Her mind raced, dismissing the possibility, insisting that the house was empty. She managed to stammer a denial, her voice barely audible. Maria's next words were a hammer blow. "There's a woman upstairs." The world around Eleanor dissolved into a terrifying blur. She ordered Maria to get out immediately, her heart pounding a frantic rhythm against her ribs. The world outside Eleanor's car window blurred into an indistinguishable streak of color as her foot pressed heavily on the accelerator. Her heart hammered against her ribs, a frantic drumbeat echoing the terrifying words that still resonated in her mind. "There's a woman upstairs." The innocent request for a clean home had morphed into a nightmare, shattering her carefully constructed sense of security. Every turn of the wheel felt desperate, her knuckles were. The dark earning coal, a conduit to the terror she was racing towards. She envisioned 1,000 scenarios, each one more horrifying than the last, her protective instincts flaring into an inferno of panic. The familiar streets now seemed menacing, the shadows long and ominous, hiding untold dangers. She had to get there, had to understand, had to protect her sanctuary from the unseen threat. The fear was a cold, sharp blade twisting in her gut, a stark contrast to the humid warmth outside. Her breath hitched, a choked sob caught in her throat as her house finally came into view, small and vulnerable in the distance. The flashing Ted afternoon sky as Eleanor screeched to a halt in her driveway. Police cruisers already lined the curb, their presence a stark, unwelcome invasion of her quiet suburban street. Officers moved with practiced efficiency, their uniforms a stark contrast to the vibrant. A wave of sick dread washed over her, solidifying the nightmare into an undeniable reality. She fumbled with the car door, her hands trembling, and practically fell out onto the pavement, her gaze fixed on her front door, which stood slightly ajar. An officer, a tall, stern-faced woman, intercepted her before she could even take a step towards the entrance, her expression firm but reassuring. Eleanor wanted to push past, to run inside, to confront whatever malevolent presence had dared to breach her home. Her mind screamed with questions, a cacophony of fear and desperate longing for answers. The air thrummed with unspoken tension, the silence punctuated only by the distant squawk of a police radio. This was not the peaceful return she had envisioned for her family. This was a war zone, and her home was the battleground. Eleanor paced restlessly on her porch, her gaze glued to the entrance, her every nerve ending alive with a harrowing anticipation. The police had moved inside, a silent procession disappearing into the heart of her home, leaving her stranded in a purgatory of anxious waiting. She could hear muffled movements from within, the occasional creak of a floorboard, the barely perceptible shuffle of feet, each sound amplified by her heightened senses. Her imagination, a cruel master, painted vivid, terrifying pictures of what they might find, of what might be lurking in the familiar corners of her sanctuary. The violation felt deeply personal, a breach of not just her physical space, but her sense of safety and control. She hugged herself tightly, as if to ward off an invisible chill, her mind replaying Maria's hushed, terrified whisper. The minutes stretched into an agonizing eternity, each second heavier than the last, filled with a suffocating dread. She envisioned her family, blissfully unaware, and a fresh wave of primal fear washed over her, intensifying her desperate need for resolution. The quiet suburban street, usually a haven of peace, now felt like a stage set for an unfolding horror, bathed in the eerie glow of the police lights. After what felt like an eternity, the officers emerged, their expressions unreadable, offering no comfort to Eleanor's frayed nerves. They confirmed the house had been thoroughly searched, from attic to basement, every room meticulously checked. There were no signs of forced entry, no broken windows, no disturbed locks, no evidence of an intruder. The house was, according to their report, completely empty and secure. A chilling contradiction settled over Eleanor, a gnawing certainty that defied their logical findings. Her heart sank, not with relief, but with a deeper, more unsettling dread. The lack of an explanation was far more terrifying than a clear-cut intruder. As the last police cruiser pulled away, leaving her alone in the quiet dusk, a lingering scent, faint but distinct, caught her attention. A delicate, floral fragrance that was definitely not hers, subtly clinging to the air near the staircase. It was a phantom trace, a whispered proof of an unseen presence, a chilling confirmation that the woman upstairs might not have been a figment of Maria's imagination, nor entirely gone. The house, her sanctuary, now felt like a haunted shell, pregnant with an unspoken secret, leaving Eleanor teetering on the edge of a horrifying realization. Eleanor stood in her quiet home, the lingering floral scent a cold grip on her heart. The silence of the house, usually a comfort, now felt heavy, oppressive, filled with unseen. She walked through the living room, her fingers tracing the polished surfaces, seeking an imperfection, a clue, anything to explain the impossible. Her carefully ordered world had been fractured, and the police's rational dismissal only deepened her unease. Every shadow seemed to hold a secret, every creak of the floorboards a whispered warning. The warmth of the afternoon had faded, replaced by an internal chill that seeped into her bones. She moved towards the staircase, the source of the faint fragrance. a dread building within her. The familiar steps felt foreign, leading into an unknown she was terrified to confront. She reached the top, her breath held tight in her chest, the air thick with unanswered questions. The upstairs hallway stretched before Eleanor, familiar, yet sinister in the fading light. Each closed door seemed to hold its breath, concealing untold mysteries. She moved slowly, her senses heightened, every rustle of her gaze swept across the pristine walls, the carefully chosen art, searching for anything amiss. A faint shimmer caught her eye near the guest bedroom door, a subtle disturbance in the dust that the cleaning lady, Maria, must have missed. It was a perfect, almost iridescent dust, not the usual household variety. As she knelt, her fingers brushed against the floorboard, and a tiny, almost invisible speck of dried, light-colored clay clung to her fingertip, incongruous with the polished wood. It was a detail so minute, so easily overlooked, yet it screamed of an external presence. This was not her home's dust, nor was it Maria's. A cold certainty solidified within her, a realization that chipped away at her last vestiges of doubt. The evening brought the return of her family, their cheerful chatter a jarring counterpoint to Eleanor's internal turmoil. She moved through the dinner preparations like a ghost, her mind replaying the image of the tiny clay speck, the phantom floral scent, and Maria's terrified whisper. Her husband's casual questions about her day were met with vague, distracted answers, her smile a fragile mask. Every sound from upstairs, every creak, every shadow drew her attention, making her jump. She watched her children, their innocent laughter echoing, and a fierce, protective resolve hardened within her. The thought of an unknown presence having walked through their private spaces, possibly observing them, sent a shiver down her spine. The normalcy of their family dinner felt like a thin veneer, barely concealing the terrifying truth she now held. She caught herself staring intently at the staircase, a silent sentinel, her gaze heavy with a burden she could not yet share. Later that night, long after the house had fallen silent and her family slept soundly, Eleanor found herself drawn back upstairs. The clay speck had haunted her thoughts, a tangible piece of evidence amidst the impossible. She navigated the dark hallway, a flashlight from the kitchen in hand, its beam cutting through the oppressive gloom. Her heart pounded a frantic rhythm against her ribs as she approached the guest bedroom. The door, which she distinctly remembered closing, was now ajar, a sliver of deeper darkness visible within. A cold draft brushed against her. She pushed the door open slowly, the hinges groaning softly, revealing the room in the flashlight's stark beam. The air was thick with the scent, and on the pristine, untouched pillow, a single delicate dried flower lay, a silent, chilling message from the woman upstairs. It was a fragile, undeniable proof, a direct challenge to her sanity and the safety of her home. Eleanor stood paralyzed, the dried flower a stark now violated. The subtle floral scent, once barely perceptible, now permeated the air, thick with an unsettling presence. Her heart hammered a desperate rhythm, a silent scream against the impossible reality unfolding around her. The police had dismissed her fears, but this fragile blossom was undeniable proof, a direct challenge to her sanity. She reached out, her fingers trembling as they grazed the delicate petals, an icy tendril of dread coiling around her. Her gaze swept from the flower to the tiny clay speck still clinging to her fingertip, two disparate pieces of a terrifying puzzle. A fierce resolve hardened within her. She would not be dismissed, nor would her family's safety be jeopardized by an unseen entity. This was no longer a ghost story. It was a personal invasion, and she would unearth its truth. The quiet hum of the refrigerator was the only sound in the house as Eleanor hunched over her dark. Hours had passed since the discovery, merging into a frantic blur of internet searches. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, typing desperate queries, piecing together fragments of forgotten lore and unsettling local legends. The delicate dried flower and the unusual clay speck lay beside her, silent witnesses to her obsessive quest. Each search result, each dimly lit forum post, seemed to offer more questions than answers, deepening the unsettling mystery that had consumed her. She felt a cold dread creeping up her spine, a growing certainty that what she sought was far more ancient and sinister than a simple intruder. The lines on her forehead deepened with concentration, her mind racing, connecting disparate threads of information. each revelation more terrifying than the last. The aroma of dinner filled the kitchen, a comforting scent that felt alien amidst Eleanor Homer's turmoil. She moved through the routine, preparing meals, listening to her children's animated stories, her smile a practiced facade. Her husband's easy laughter grated on her heightened nerves, his normalcy a stark reminder of the secret burden she carried. She glanced at the staircase, a silent sentinel, her gaze heavy with unspoken fears, then quickly averted her. The impulse to confide, to share the terrifying truth, warred with a primal need to protect them, to shield their innocent world from the encroaching darkness. Every casual question about her day felt like an interrogation, every innocent touch a challenge to her composure. The house, once her sanctuary, now felt like a stage where she performed a desperate charade, isolating her further in her terrifying quest. Driven by an unyielding compulsion, Eleanor returned to the guest bedroom, her dark G across the familiar surfaces. The unusual clay speck haunted her, a stubborn detail that refused to be dismissed. She ran her fingers along the baseboards, beneath the windowsills, searching for any anomaly, any hidden seam. Her heart pounded, a frantic drum against her ribs, as her fingers brushed against a loose section of the old wooden desk. A barely perceptible give, a tiny creak, revealed a hidden drawer, skillfully concealed. Her breath hitched. A gasp caught in her throat as she pulled it open. Inside, nestled amongst yellowed papers and dried petals identical to the one on her pillow, lay a small leather-bound journal, its pages filled with elegant, looping script. It was a tangible link, a voice from the past, whispering secrets she was now undeniably ready to hear, and perhaps deeply regret. Eleanor clutched the old leather-bound journal, its fragile pages a direct link to a past she never knew existed. The elegant script on the yellowed paper slowly unfurled a devastating truth. A younger sister, named Eliza, whose existence had been erased from family history after a tragic, accidental fall in the very house. The floral scent, a distinct lily, was Eliza's favorite, often pressed between the journal's pages, while the clay speck was from her pottery hobby, a passion cut short. The revelation shattered Eleanor's perception of her family, replacing confusion with a profound sorrow and a chilling understanding of the woman upstairs. A legacy of silence had birthed a lingering presence, a forgotten soul seeking only to be remembered. The weight of this concealed grief pressed down on her, an emotional burden she now instinctively understood. The journal lay open on the kitchen counter, its truths echoing in the quiet morning. Eleanor moved through her routine, preparing coffee, but her mind was miles away, grappling with the unearthed narrative. The carefully constructed facade of her family's past had crumbled, revealing layers of suppressed grief and fear. She understood now that Eliza's presence was not a malevolent spirit, but a poignant whisper from a forgotten life, a yearning for acknowledgement. The weight of the secret, once a source of terror, transformed into a profound sense of responsibility. She saw the familiar corners of her home through new. The initial fear had given way to a deep empathetic ache in her chest. A quiet resolve settled over Eleanor. She found a small, sunlit corner in the guest bedroom, a space Eliza might have loved. With delicate movements, she arranged a modest tribute, a simple ceramic vase holding fresh found tucked within the journal. A youthful Eliza, vibrant and smiling. Eleanor also carefully placed a small, unfired clay sculpture, perhaps one Eliza had been working on, a tangible connection to her passion. It was a silent act of reclamation, an acknowledgement of a life long denied. The air in the room seemed to lighten, the oppressive stillness replaced by a gentle, almost reverent calm. This was not just a memorial. It was an invitation for peace. The house, once a source of subtle dread, now radiated a newfound tranquility. The phantom floral scent had softened, becoming a comforting whisper rather than an unsettling presence. Eleanor felt a lightness she hadn't experienced in years, a profound sense of peace blooming within her. She watched her family moving through their days, their laughter echoing without the prior undercurrent of tension she had secretly felt. While the full story of Eliza remained Eleanor's private burden, the act of acknowledging her had subtly shifted the very fabric of their home. Eleanor had not just cleaned her house, she had cleansed its past, making space for a future built on truth and quiet remembrance. her meticulous order now infused with a deeper, more empathetic understanding of life's complex tapestry. If you're watching this video, please like it, subscribe to the channel, and tell me in the comments where you are listening to my story of vengeance from. I want to know how far it has traveled.